we will open the Zoning Board of Examiners and Appeals September 10th, 2020 meeting. I will start with roll call.
Ellen McKay,
Here.
Tanya Hickok,
Here.
Dale Smythe,
Here.
Stephanie Eicher,
Here.
Dave Hale,
Here.
Monica Emerton,
Here.
Jonathan Lang,
Here.
Jackie Savina,
Here.
and new member Skylar Quinn.
Here.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have minutes from August 13th. Does anybody have any motion?
This is Stephanie. I move to approve.
Do we have a second? Board Member Hale seconded. Board Member Eicher, would you speak to your motion, please?
I move to approve the minutes of August 13th, 2020, and I have no corrections or additions or changes.
This is Dave Hale. I second.
Shall we vote? Board Member Eicher?
Approve.
Board Member Lang?
Approve.
Board Member Emerton?
Approve.
Board Member Hale?
Approve.
Board Member Savina?
I believe I have to abstain from voting since I wasn't there last meeting.
Correct.
Yeah. So abstain.
And that motion passes. Next on the agenda is disclosures. Board Member Quinn?
I abstain from voting on the minutes, so I'm abstain from voting on the consent agenda as I was not yet seated on the board.
Thank you. Any other disclosures? Board Member Savina, can you speak to abstaining to the consent agenda?
Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have to abstain from Resolution 2020-009 because I was not at the meeting.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion. Oh, you're not going to pull it? Moving on to the consent agenda, Does anybody have any comments, questions?
This is Dave Hale. Move to approve the consent agenda.
This is Stephanie, I second.
Can you also please put that in the Microsoft Team chat? Board Member Hill, could you speak to your motion?
Not much to say. I just hope that we can approve the consent agenda.
Does anybody have any other comments? Or have any reason to pull the agenda? Seeing none? It's approved. Are there any objections to the positive motion? Seeing none, this motion is accepted, approved. All right. We don't have an appearance request, no unfinished business, regular agenda. Going to move on to public hearings. Any action by the board shall require the favorable vote of a majority of the fully constituted board. A fully constituted board shall include all members of the board, including vacancies not excused for conflicts of interest. For a variance to be granted, all 8 standards must be met. Every final decision of the board shall clearly state on its face it is a final decision with respect to all issues involved in the case, and that the parties have 30 days from the date of mailing or other distribution of the decision to file an appeal to the Superior Court. Case number 2020-111. Petitioner is Rebecca Lipson. Will the staff please describe the notice given in this case?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On July 21st, 2020, a total of 117 public hearing notices were mailed. No responses were received from the public or the South Addition Community Council. Thank you.
Are there any objections to the sufficiency of notice in this case? Seeing none, will staff please present the case?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The petitioner is requesting a variance from AMC Table 2106-1, Dimensional Standards for Residential Districts, to allow existing stairs and deck to encroach 4.9 feet into the west side setback, 3.1 feet into the east side setback, and 15.1 feet into the front setback in the R2D two-family residential district. This is a single-family home. The petitioner is in the process of renovating the home, and the encroachment was discovered during the permit process and verified through a non-conforming determination. The existing stairs and deck at the rear of the house were constructed on both sides to access the downstairs and backyard. It also serves to provide a life safety egress for the downstairs area. This is a 2-story single-family house that was built in 1954 prior to the effective date of zoning in May of 1959. The placement of the structure in the front setback creates the need for the variance to any decking and stairs that are built as they're encroaching in the front back as they go down the sides into the side setback. The house is built on a 50-foot wide bluff lot that is steeply sloped with an elevation change of approximately 9 feet to the bottom level of the home and approximately 35-foot elevation change for the length of the lot. Due to the topographical constraints, the previous owner constructed stairs and decking to access the lower level of the house. In the matter of the findings, staff found that Standard A has been met. The lot is located on the edge of a bluff with approximately 30% slopes and is a narrow lot with a platted width of 50 feet. The house was placed, it's 32 feet wide, which takes up a majority of the lot width. The property slopes steeply downhill to the south. Furthermore, the house legally encroaches 15.1 feet into the required 20-foot front setback, and the stairs used to access the front entry down to the rear of the structure were constructed sometime after 1985, which was after zoning. The resulting encroachment is due to the placement of the structure on the steep lot and the stairs that were constructed after zoning. Given the development constraints posed by the steep topography of the land, exceptional physical circumstances are found to exist on this petitioner's lot. Standard B, staff finds that has been met. Strict application of the R2D district setbacks would create an undue hardship for this property owner, who will not have outside access to the first floor of the house. Stairs and decks are a common right of enjoyment in this neighborhood, and the stairs are necessary due to the steepness of the lot. Decks and stairs are not as permanent as houses, but they do add substantial value to property by creating outdoor spaces with a sense of privacy. Staff finds that standard C has been met. There is a peculiarity of the lot arising from a unique natural physical condition with the steep slopes associated with development on the property. The need for the variance is a result of natural condition of the land, which is beyond control of the petitioner. Staff finds that standard D has been met. This standard assumes the violation will not be injurious to the neighborhood or detrimental to the public welfare if a variance is granted. There are no such structure separation violations. Drainage and runoff do not appear to be an issue, and there have been no letters of objection from the neighbors to the west and east. The petitioner has applied for an encroachment permit for the wood deck and short retaining wall in West 16th Avenue right-of-way. Standard E, staff has found that has been met. The requested variance is dimensional and not a variance for a prohibited use. Staff finds standard F has been met. There are no identified health or safety problems created by the stairs and deck. There is sufficient space for road maintenance, snow storage, and fire and EMS services. Granting the variance will greatly improve safety for the residents of the house for ingress and egress to the first floor. Staff finds standard G has been met. That standard is not applicable to detached single-family residences. Standard H, the requested variance is the minimum variance that will make possible a reasonable use of the land due to the topography and existing structure placement. Structures including decks and stairs that are in excess of 30 inches in height are included in setbacks. The topography and placement of the home required the stairs and deck to be above 30 inches by design in some sections, thus creating an encroachment. Granting the setback variance will allow for the petitioner to work with the constraints of the land to maintain the existing stairs and deck that is a common, enjoyable right in a neighborhood. Therefore, staff is recommending that approval of the variance, as they've found that all the 8 approval criteria have been met, and we're subjecting it to standards 1 and 2 conditions found on page 5 of your staff packet. Thank you.
Are there any questions of staff by the board? Seeing none, are there any questions of the staff by the applicant?
No questions for staff at this time.
Thank you. The applicant has a total of 10 minutes to present their case and may reserve time for rebuttal. Throughout the proceedings, the burden of proof rests upon the applicant to convince the board by preponderance of evidence that the variance should be granted. The board members and the staff may then ask questions of the applicant through the chair. Will the applicant or representative please come forward and state and spell your name for the record?
Certainly. My name is Rebecca, R-E-B-E-C-C-A, Lipson, L-I-P-S-O-N.
Please present your case.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean, and staff in general for the introduction and for working with me during this process. And thank you, board, for the opportunity to present to you tonight. I think staff did a really thorough job outlining the reasons why I believe the 8 variance factors are met. And I don't want to waste your time essentially restating my narrative that I've submitted. I'm largely here to answer questions you may have, but I would like to say a few words, and I'd like to walk you through the photos in your packet, as my color photos unfortunately came out really granular. If at any time you can't hear me, please just let me know and I'll speak louder. As staff described, I'm here because my house, which is in South Addition and which I purchased last year, was built in the 50s. It had it might have had 2 owners, but the gentleman I bought it from was raised in the home, retired, and sold the home. So it's largely one family. It's in a really unique location in that there's a row of about 4 homes that are built onto a bluff. The lot itself slopes down, it's heavily wooded, and it goes into the trail system. Because it is heavily wooded and sloped, truly the only way to access the bottom portion of the home itself and the rest of the lot is to have a structure encroach in the setback. That's different than most homes in the R2D zone, particularly those built on flat land. So I actually cannot access without encroaching in the setback. If you're able to turn to page 13 of your packet, the first image is kind of a circle. It shows where the lot is with regard to both the road and the trail systems in between the lot and the road. The bottom image, my house is the center house, and you keep scrolling down to page 14, there's 2 photos, and the top photo shows from a lower section of the house, and that's not even all the way down the lot. It shows looking up, so you can see the topography and the staircase that goes down, and then the bottom photo on page 14 is, again, showing how steep the lot is, and that's just deck stairing that goes down into the back portion of the lot. On page 15, you can see that the first story of the house is quite flat. It's just built on the road, and Sean described how it's in the front setback and was constructed that way. Page 16 shows the wood decking to the east, and that is currently where the door is. And the upper right image shows how the staircase is essentially, it's touching the chimney, and that's part of the reason why the staircase can't be set, why it encroaches so much into the setback. The bottom image on page 16 is just another image of the deck. On page 17, that shows from the top, the street level, down to the bottom level of the house. And page 18 shows the wood/concrete steps that are built down on the west side. And the image on the right shows there's a legal egress window that if the staircase and retaining wall, and if the staircase can't be any closer, in one, because there's a retaining wall, and 2, because then the staircase would block the egress window. And very faintly on this photo on the bottom of page 18, you can see the retaining wall appears to have 56 sketched in. And lastly, on page 19, it's just another photo of the stairs going down to the lot. One thing that I would like to add that's not in my narrative is that I have spoken with my neighbor to the east, which is the side that has the more substantial wood staircase and decking, and she let me know that she didn't voice any opposition to my variance request and that her building actually also has a variance. So I was happy to be able to speak with her after I'd already submitted my proposal. I would conclude and just ask that the board recognize the unique situation that this home is in based on both the construction of the home prior to our current code and the topography of the lot, which makes it impossible for me to access the bottom portion without any type of encroachment. So with that, I would certainly, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
So you have 4 minutes and 6 seconds remaining for rebuttal. Are there any questions of the applicant by board members? Board Member Smythe?
Yeah, great presentation. I agree with everything I've heard here today. Just super minor detail. Why is the as-built predated for November 21st? Is there a reason for that I don't know about? Is that important?
Oh. And I'm really sorry. I can't quite hear what the question was. I can hear something referencing the as-built.
I'll try again. The as-bilt's predated for November 21st. I didn't know why, and I also don't know if that's important in this approval.
That is definitely an error. Let's see when it looks like it was updated March 16th, 2020, which I got a non-conforming use determination, which is in your packet, and this was required for that document.
Are there any other questions by the board? Are there any questions of the applicant by the staff?
No.
Is there anyone from the public wishing to testify in case 2020-111? Seeing that there is none, does staff have any rebuttal?
No, Madam Chair.
Does the applicant have any rebuttal?
No, thank you.
Well, the public hearing is now closed, and the matter will rest with the board. May I have a positive motion, please? I have a motion to approve from Member McKay. I'm looking for a second. From Commissioner Iker. Board Member Iker. McKay, Ms. McKay, will you please speak to your motion?
I move to approve a variance from AMC Table 2106-1, dimensional standards for residential districts, to allow existing stairs and deck to encroach 4.9 feet into the west side setback, 3.1 feet into the east side setback, and 15.1 feet into the front setback. With the conditions 1 and 2 found on page 5. And as far as the findings go, the standards, I agree with everything that the staff has presented about the standards, and I find that all of the standards, all 8 standards, are met. That's it.
Board Member Iker.
I second.
Would you like to speak to your motion? Would you like to speak to your second? Board Member Iker.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm having a really hard time hearing you guys. If I understand, is it Board Member McKay moved to approve the variance subject to Department Recommendations 1 and 2 on page 5 of our packet? And if Board Member McKay adopted the findings presented by staff on pages 2, 3, 4, and 5, that was going to be the substance of my second on the motion, and I do plan to support my motion, or the motion.
Thank you, Board Member Iker. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Seeing none, I think we should take a vote. Board Member Iker.
Approve.
Board Member Lang.
Approve.
Board Member Emerton.
Approve.
Board Member Hale.
Approve.
Board Member Savina.
Approve.
Board Member Smythe.
Approve.
9 in approval. This motion passes. We will move on to reports. I believe there are none. Board member comments. I would like to welcome Skylar Quinn as a new board member to the Zoning Board of Examiners and Appeals. We will welcome you. Thanks so much for volunteering.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Hopefully it wasn't too painful. Welcome, thank you. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Stephanie, so moved.
Do we get a second? Board Member McKay. We are now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.